Within this limited range, it is unmatched by any other technique in precision, power, and certainty. Dr. Kalpana Singh did her MSc, MPhil, and PhD from HP University, Shimla. She has 28 years of teaching experience. She is a two-time recipient of Best Teacher Award and also the recipient of Best Presenter Award and Best Interactor Award. She is the author of a chapter in a book entitled Computational Molecular Modeling Methods in the Development of Covalent Modifier Drug Molecules with special reference to density functional theory, published by Meta Research Press. She has published around 20 research papers in reputed national and international journals. Her research focuses on in silico drug designing and delivery, computational chemistry, and spectroscopy. She has completed a research project sponsored by UGC, and one research project is under final evaluation by SERV. Participated in many national conferences, symposia, and workshops, and organized subject-oriented seminars, conferences, and lecture series, and also popularization activities. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kalpana Singh. Welcome, Kalpana Madam.
Thank you, sir. Should I start my screen? Please start sharing my Holkar Science College, Indore. I would like to thank the principal of the college, head of the chemistry department, Madam Anamika Jain, Dwivedi sir, who invited me here, Dr. Aparna Gandhe, I can see, Geeta Verma, I can see, and many more I can see. So I, with folded hands, I would just like to extend my heartfelt thanks for giving me this opportunity. Hope I can be just to the hope which you have shown in me. So we'll just, I would just like to say here one thing, that because in Ujjain, in this colony in which I am living, there are certain civil work going on. So if my internet somehow gets disconnected, I will just again connect that with another device. So please don't panic for that. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll just share my screen. Please let me know if in between there are any technical hassles. I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay.
I hope this is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me put it into the slide presenter mode. I'm just presenting. This full screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much then. So now today we are going to see, or I can say that I'm just going to give you an overview of the microwave spectroscopy and how we can use this very special tool of spectroscopy for the structured elucidation of molecules and basically the polar molecules. The consideration over here, or I can say that the emphasis over here will be on polar molecules. As Dwivedi sir told me that students had certain lectures on infrared spectroscopy earlier. So, and apart from that, in syllabus also you are studying spectroscopy. So you know a lot about spectroscopy. But even then, before starting the thing or the microwave spectroscopy, I would just like to tell you that spectroscopy is an analytical tool. It's a tool. What do I mean from tool is that we apply spectroscopy to find out certain things, or we are applying spectroscopy for findings. Like I'm addressing to students only basically. So like you do a lot of analysis in your labs, and you have many techniques in your kitting. They may be volumetric techniques, they may be some other physical techniques. Likewise, there is another technique which is spectroscopy, and this spectroscopy is an analytical tool. With the help of this technique, you can find out many things about a molecule under consideration, or you can find out many things about the reaction which you are going to study. Even if you have a very complicated reaction going on, so at the end of that reaction, we have certain products, we have certain things. So we can know a lot about that, how this reaction is going on, how what is the thermodynamics of the reaction, what is the kinetics of the reaction. This can be judged with the help of the products which are formed at the end of the reaction. So spectroscopy is a tool. This is a tool which helps us find out many things, which helps us find out not only the structures, but the fate of the reaction only also. So what is this spectroscopy? As the name suggests, this spectroscopy is the study of the spectra. So what is this spectra and how it will be formed? Now we know that this spectra will be formed whenever there will be interactions between the electromagnetic field of the electromagnetic radiation and the electromagnetic field of the molecule under consideration. We have two things. One is the radiation and another participant is the molecule. Mane, we must have radiations which should fall upon a molecule. These electromagnetic radiation, what does it mean? That they have electric and magnetic field oscillating at 90 degrees to each other. We have just put a picture over here. Definitely this picture is taken from internet, but this is a picture over here which has a field which is shown by red lines and a field which is shown by blue lines. If these red lines are electrical field, these blue lines are magnetic field. So you can see that here, this electric and magnetic field, they are oscillating at 90 degrees to each other. So such type of radiations are known as electromagnetic radiations. They can be अगर आप इन्हें अपने उसमें कहें, they can be light radiations, okay? Like sound radiations are not electromagnetic radiations, okay? So every radiation is not electromagnetic radiation, but we need, for spectroscopy to happen, we need electromagnetic radiations. Then there is another thing which you call as matter. Now matter has certain positive and negative charges. And what are these positive and negative charges? These positive and negative charges are the electrons and protons which are there inside the molecule. Okay. Now these electrons and protons, because they are charged, so they have electric field, and any oscillating electric field always produces magnetic field. You know that. This is a famous law of physics, that if there is an oscillating charge, it will produce magnetic field. So now electric field was already there, and here comes another field, that is magnetic field, which is produced because of the oscillating charges. So now matter also has electromagnetic fields. Now this radiation, which is electromagnetic radiation with electric and magnetic field, now when this radiation falls upon this molecule also has electromagnetic field, which I told you right now. Now there will be an interaction between both these fields, electromagnetic field of the radiation and the electromagnetic field of the molecule. And what is the resultant? The resultant is the increase in the energy of the matter, and this increased energy will now be shown off in different ways. It can be the rotation in the molecule, it can be the vibration in the molecule, or it can be it can be electronic excitation, or it can be some other thing, depending upon that what type of radiation are you impinging upon this matter. So these two things are very important. One, what is the type of matter? Another, what is electromagnetic radiation which is falling upon this matter? Every radiation cannot bring out the same change. Different radiations will bring out the different changes depending upon the type of the matter. Per se, if you are having infrared radiation, it will bring about vibrations in the molecule. If you are having a radio frequency waves, they will bring about changes in the nuclear, giving rise to NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Likewise, so I have just put a table over here above this. This table has, you can just see that if you will see this table, it has certain radiations which are arranged in the increasing order of energy. This is very important. You know that E is equal to h nu. Nu is the frequency, whereas nu is equal to C upon lambda. And what is this C upon lambda? Lambda is the wavelength. So lambda is wavelength. So now you can see that what is happening. यहाँ पे आप देखिए E is equal to h nu है, nu is frequency. So if E is increasing, it definitely means that frequency is increasing. But frequency and wavelength are reciprocal to each other. So when frequency is increasing, we must consider that at the time wavelength is wavelength. अगर frequency increase कर रही है तो wavelength क्या करेगी? Wavelength जो है वो decrease करेगी. So this we have. So now you can see that इस table से, with the help of this table, you can see that we have a radiation in the increasing order of energy. So the frequency is increasing in this way and wavelength is decreasing in this way. Wavelength is decreasing. Okay. So for example, now the first type of radiation which we have, the radiation which we have written here, these are radio waves with the maximum wavelength but with the minimum amount of frequency. So these are radio waves. Now radio waves you can see. Then we have the second type of radiations which are microwaves, which we are going to talk today. इसको हम आज इसकी बात कर रहे हैं, microwaves की. So what are these microwave radiations? Microwave radiations are the radiations with frequency of the range of 3 into 10 raised to power 11 to 3 into 10 raised to power 13 hertz, and we have the wavelength of the range of 1 millimeter to 25 micrometer range. So now when the radiations of this range, that means frequency 3 into 10 raised to power 11 to 13 and wavelength 1 millimeter to 25 micrometer range. I hope you understand the conversion formulas of millimeter and micrometer. So when these radiation, they fall upon a molecule which has electromagnetic field which is created because of the presence of positive and negative charges, and these positive and negative charges are oscillating at their own mean position. Because you know that you have studied about quantum mechanics, and you know that according to de Broglie hypothesis, every particle which is there has a wave associated with it, or every principle also tells us about that every particle is oscillating. So these positive and negative charges are oscillating and they create a magnetic field. So when these radiations of 3 into 10 raised to power 11 to 13, when they range of frequency and 1 millimeter to 25 micrometer range of wavelength, when they fall upon this molecule which has positive and negative charge separation, they produce a circulatory, or you can say that they produce a rotational movement in the molecule, and this is known as rotational spectroscopy or microwave spectroscopy. Now what happens that if this is a molecule, then what is happening? The molecule starts rotating like this or like this. There can be two types of movements. If the molecule is rotating around the axis, then this is known as coaxial rotation. But if the molecule is rotating along this center of mass in this perpendicular position to its internuclear axis, there can be two types of rotations which may happen. One is coaxial, another is equatorial. But yes, this type of rotation, when it will be there, this will be known as microwave spectroscopy. Okay, so now microwave spectroscopy, one thing for sure जो हमने अभी तक देखा, that this spectroscopy will utilize photons in the microwave range. This is very important. If the photons are not from microwave range, that means 3 into 10 raised to power 11 to 13 hertz, they will not produce the rotational change and we cannot have microwave spectroscopy. So this spectroscopy utilizes photons in the microwave range to cause transitions between the quantum rotational energy levels of a gas molecule. Next very important thing is that the molecule should be in the gas phase. It should not be in the solid or liquid phase. You can have infrared spectroscopy in liquid and solid phase. You have seen that. If you want to take out, you can in a liquid or solid sample. But if you want to have microwave spectroscopy in a solid or liquid sample, you cannot have. You have to change the sample first to gaseous phase. Why? Because for microwave spectroscopy to happen, what is needed is the perfect rotation of the molecule. Molecule should rotate, whether coaxially or in the coaxial or equatorial position. It will need certain amount of freedom. It will need degrees of freedom. It will need certain amount of space. It will not suffer from interactions, or it will not suffer from the hindrance which is posed from the neighboring or the adjoining molecules. So that is why the sample must be in the gaseous phase. And for sample, when the sample is in gaseous phase and the microwave radiations are there, we can have microwave rotational spectroscopy. For microwave rotational spectroscopies, molecules, all the molecules which are in chemistry, or all the molecules which exist on this planet or in this universe, they can be broken down into 5 categories based on their shapes and inertia around their 3 orthogonal axes. And these 5 category of molecules include diatomic molecules, linear molecules, spherical tops, symmetrical tops, and asymmetric molecules. This is very important. These categories are very important because if rotation has to happen, we have to study that what is the criteria of inertia. So now these are the shapes of molecules which we will be encountering in microwave spectroscopy. Now you see that whenever the rotation has to happen, whenever rotation has to take place, the very important thing is that the inertia of the molecule should be broken. ये जो inertia है, inertia is the tendency of any molecule or tendency of any system to be in that system unless and until it is aided by certain other external force. For example, a body which is in rest will try to be in rest, that is inertia of rest. If a body is moving, it will try to be in motion unless and until stopped by any external force, that is inertia of motion. This all comes in Newtonian mechanics, you have seen that. ये सब आपने न्यूटोनियन मैकेनिक्स में पढ़ा है या एनकाउंटर किया है. So this is inertia. So if we have to, if microwave radiation have to cause microwave spectroscopy, or if then that spectroscopy can only be there when this inertia will be broken. If this inertia is not broken, we cannot have microwave spectroscopy. So this is very important to understand about the different types of molecules on which microwave radiations will be falling and will be absorbed by the molecule to have changes in their inertia. And we must say that actually inertia exists along the 3. You know that there are x, y, and z axis. So inertia along x-axis, by the tradition, it is written as IA. Inertia along y-axis is written as IB, and inertia along z-axis is written as IC. So if I talk about the simplest of molecules are the diatomic molecules which we encounter, like HCl molecule. These diatomic molecules have inertia which is given as I is equal to mu r square, where this mu is a reduced mass. This we'll see later on. So first type of molecules are the simplest type of molecules, which are diatomic molecules. These are simple molecules with at least 2 atoms bound together by a rigid bond, and this is the bond length. Bond length of one molecule is depicted here by R1. One atom is by R1 and another atom is by R2, and the total bond length is this much. So this type of molecules are known as diatomic molecules. They have only one inertia along x-axis only, because linear molecules have presentations along x-axis only. They do not have 3D presentations. That is why they express inertia along x-axis only. Whereas the linear molecules, I have not shown linear molecules here. Why? Because linear molecules are just the extension of diatomic molecules. The only difference being there, linear molecules have more than 2 number of atoms. Diatomic molecules are also linear molecules, but they have only 2 number of atoms. Whereas if I have linear molecules, they can have 3 atoms, they can have 4 atoms, whatever. But if they are linear molecules, they have all the atoms arranged in a single line or in a straight line. So these are termed as linear molecules. In case of linear molecules, moment of inertia I will be the sum total of all the bonds. So it will be mu1 r1 square plus mu2 r2 square plus mu2 r3 mu3 r3 square, and so on and so on. Second type of molecules are spherical tops molecule, like the benzene molecule. These spherical type molecules are the molecules which have three orthogonal axes along x, y, and z direction, and all the three orthogonal axes, the moment of inertia along these axes is IA along x-axis, IB along y-axis, and IC along z-axis. Now these spherical tops have the same moment of inertia along x, y, and z axis. That means IA is equal to IB is equal to IC. So these molecules, they do not have any change in the moment of inertia along x, y, and z axis. So they do not have any dipole moment, and such type of molecules are microwave inactive. Such type of molecules are microwave inactive. Which molecules are these? These are spherical top molecules. IA is equal to IB is equal to IC. That means moment of inertia along x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis is exactly same. So there is no dipole moment, and these are microwave inactive. Third type of molecules are symmetrical tops. These are very interesting molecules. However, a few molecules are symmetrical tops in case of their findings, but they have actually one unique rotational axis, and they have two degenerate axes of rotations. Unique rotational, I hope you understand the difference between unique axis of rotation and degenerate axis of rotation. Degenerate axis of rotation means the axis of rotation which have the same type of moment of inertia. As you have studied in chemistry that there are degenerate states, the energy states having the similar amount of energy or the same magnitude of energy are termed as degenerate axis of rotation. Likewise, the degenerate axis here, or the degenerate axis of inertia, means the axis of inertia which has the same moment of inertia. They are termed as the degenerate axis, and the unique axis means the axis which has the different moment of inertia as compared to the degenerate axis. So we can write that IA, if IA is the degenerate axis of rotation, then unique axis of rotation, then moment of inertia along IA is not equal to moment of inertia along IB, which is not equal to moment of inertia along IC, but moment of inertia along IB is equal to moment of inertia along IC. That means IB and IC are the degenerate axis, and this axis IA, which is unique axis, it has a different amount of inertia. Now, depending upon this, we have another two types of molecules, oblate and prolate molecules. Oblate molecules are rather pressed one, a complex type of molecules, frisbee type of shape they have. In this case of in this category, the unit rotational axis has greater moment of inertia as compared to the degenerate axis. That means IA is greater than IB, which is equal to IC. IB and IC will be same, exactly same, because we are catering to symmetrical tops, and by definition symmetrical tops have IB and IC which are exactly equal. So now in case of oblate molecules, which are frisbee type of molecules, pressed molecules, they have IA greater than IB is equal to IC. Another type of molecules are prolate type of molecules. These molecules have elongated shape, and these are actually also the symmetrical top molecules, and they have shape like of frisbee. No, sorry, not frisbee. They have the shape like of a rugby football, or you can say football. So they have the degenerate axis having the same moment of inertia, but the unique axis has less moment of inertia as compared to degenerate. Oblate has IA greater than IB is equal to IC, whereas prolate has IA less than IB is equal to IC. So these two categories of molecules, they belong to the symmetrical tops. Whereas the next category is of asymmetric top molecules, and the whole of the molecules which you generally see in chemistry, starting from water to the complex protein molecules, they all come under these asymmetric top categories. These molecules, they have three axes of rotation. Again, as any other molecule has, they also have three axes of rotation. One along x-axis IA, another along y-axis IB, another along z-axis IC. There are three axes, and there are three values of moment of inertia. But the moment of inertia along x-axis is not equal to moment of inertia along y-axis, is not equal to moment of inertia along z-axis. So basically, these are molecules which you encounter in your daily routine, in your chemistry experiments, in your practicals, during the lab when you synthesize molecules. Most of the molecules, they fall into this category, which will be microwave active. Because if I talk about spherical top molecules, there are molecules which belong to this category also. Like I said, benzene molecule. But these molecules will not be microwave active. You will see later on that as there is no dipole moment, there cannot be any microwave activity. So these are not microwave active. So these are the types of molecules. Now, what are the conditions for microwave spectra? That is another very important thing. क्या ये microwave spectra हमेशा बन जाएगा? Microwave radiations with microwave radiations with frequency 3 into 10 to the power 11 to 3 into 10 to the power 13 hertz, वाली microwave radiations, when they will fall upon a molecule with when they will fall upon a molecule electromagnetic field वाले molecule के ऊपर अगर ये radiation पड़ती हैं, तो is this spectra will be formed always? No, there are
हाँ मैडम, माइक होना चाहिए हमारो.
I think some of the student has switched on their audio. Please switch off your audio. Okay. So now what are the conditions for the formation of microwave spectra? That we'll have to see. So now conditions, photons from the microwave region, first of all, their absorption is needed to cause transitions between rotational states of the molecules. We'll see later on that what are the rotational states, but the photons from microwave region are needed. Secondly, the most important thing or the most important condition for the formation for microwave spectra is that the molecule on which these microwave radiations are falling and the molecule which is absorbing these microwave radiations, that molecule must have a permanent dipole moment. That is the most important condition. If the molecule does not have a permanent dipole moment, then the spectra will not be formed. Microwave spectra will not be formed. Another thing is that when this molecule should have permanent dipole moment, the molecule should absorb microwave radiation, and upon the absorbance of microwave radiation, the dipole moment of the molecule must change. If the molecule has a permanent dipole moment, and if this dipole moment is not changing, then again the microwave spectrum will not be recorded. So the microwave spectrum will be formed when there are microwave radiations, and number two, when the molecule has a permanent dipole moment and there must be a change in the permanent dipole, there must be a change recorded in the dipole moment when the microwave radiations are absorbed. Now, why this permanent dipole moment is needed? The reason is that these molecules basically have to show a change, which is a rotational change. And rotational change can be encountered only when there is the production of torque. Torque is a couple of force which is there. Torque is a couple of force equal in opposite forces. That means the forces are equal in magnitude, but they are acting in opposite direction. If I have to rotate this molecule, then during rotation, what happens? If you are able to see this molecule which I am holding in hand, I don't know you are able to see or not. If this green and orange atom you can see. So what I need to do, if I am applying the force in this direction on this green ball, I'll have to apply a force in this direction on this orange ball. If I am applying forces in the opposite direction only, then the rotation is there. If I am not applying forces in opposite direction, if I am applying forces in the same direction, there can be the translational motion, not the rotational motion. For example, if a car has to move, or if you have to move a chair in the forward direction, what you need to do, you need to push chair in the forward direction. Okay, wait for a minute. I must switch on this. Thank you. My laptop was going off battery. So what is happening? So you need to apply force in the opposite direction if you want to bring a rotational change. If you do not apply force in the opposite direction, molecule will move, but in the forward direction only. Or if you are applying a force in the backward direction, molecule will move in the backward direction only. So for the production of forces of equal magnitude, but in the opposite direction, what we need to have a molecule with charge separation, where one of the end need to have the positive charge and the other end must have the negative charge. So what is the important condition here is that the molecule must possess a permanent dipole moment, and the permanent dipole moment should change. There should be a change in the dipole moment upon the absorption of microwave photon. Now, another next very important thing is that because what we are causing a rotational change. A molecule is rotating. This is not vibrating. The change in microwave spectra or in microwave spectroscopy is a rotational change. So this bond which is between these two atoms, that is M1 and M2, this bond ought to be a rigid bond. If it is not a rigid bond, then there will not be any rotation. For example, you can think that if you have two stones tied up to a spring, अगर आपका एक spring के या एक रस्सी के दो सिरों पे आप दो stones को बांध दीजिए, and you try to rotate that rope, is it possible? No, it's not possible. Rope can vibrate, it cannot rotate. Rotation will be caused only when you have this bond as a very rigid bond. If this bond is a rigid bond, like a stick type of bond, अगर आपके पास एक डंडा है, एक स्टिक है, उस स्टिक के दोनों सिरों पे आप दो बॉल्स को लगा दीजिए, you can very well rotate that stick. You just hold that stick from the center and go on rotating in coaxial or equatorial position. It will rotate. But if you have a rope type of situation, that means the flexible bonds, that will not happen. Rotation will not happen. So another thing which we can drive over here is that the permanent dipole moment is required, change in dipole moment is required, rigidity in bond is required, and this bond should not have experienced any change in bond length. If this bond is experiencing a change in bond length, at that time we must say that the molecule is going to break down. And if the very important concept about spectroscopy is that it is not a chemical change. Spectroscopy is a physical tool. It's not a thing which is going to bring about a chemical change. And I hope you know about that this is the main difference between spectroscopy and photochemistry. If you are studying photochemistry, you are applying the same technique. You are using the photons. But in case of photochemistry, what is happening? The changes are bringing about a chemical change in the molecule. When you are studying spectroscopy, the same light you are using here, but this light is not bringing about, or this radiation is not bringing about any change in the chemical structure of the molecule. That means if there is a taboo that there must not be any change in the chemical structure of the molecule, then we must say that there should not be any change in the bond length. Any change in the bond length will break the molecule, and in that condition, the very basic condition of spectroscopy will be defied. So now the conditions are that bond should be rigid to allow for coaxial or equatorial rotation, but at the same time, we should not experience, or there should not be any change in the bond length. And such type of molecules which satisfy all these conditions, they are termed as rigid rotators, or very favorably as rigid rotors. You must know about that. In some of the books, you will be finding the term rigid rotator, whereas the most general term which is used is rigid rotors. So what are rigid rotors? Rigid rotors are nothing. These are the set of the molecules with different atoms attached to a rigid bond, which is free to rotate around the center of mass in a coaxial or equatorial rotation. It has a permanent dipole moment so that a torque can be applied on this. And now, any molecule satisfying all these conditions is termed as a microwave active molecule, and any molecule which is not satisfying these conditions is termed as microwave inactive molecule. That means if a molecule is a rigid rotator, it will form a microwave spectra and it is microwave active. If a molecule is not a rigid rotator, that means if it has a flexible bond, or if it does not have permanent dipole moment, in that condition, the molecule will not form a microwave spectrum and will say that molecule is microwave inactive. So that is a very important derivation over here. I want to submit one thing over here, that this is a very important derivation. If you are taking out microwave spectra if you are just putting the molecule into a microwave spectrometer, and if you are finding out the microwave spectra and say the molecule gives microwave spectrum, you can say yes, the molecule is polar. You can very well say that this molecule is a polar molecule, and this molecule is a polar molecule. It's a rigid rotator. It has a hard rigid bond. Okay. And if this molecule is not giving a microwave spectrum, you can say that no, this is not a polar molecule and this is not a rigid rotator. Now with this we come to another very important derivation, that what are the selection rules for the formation of microwave spectrum? What are the rules under which this microwave spectrum is formed? So there will be two set of rules. One are gross and another are specific rules. Gross rules are the gross rules are the very much those rules which you have studied till now. That is, the molecule must be present in gaseous phase, molecule should be a rigid rotor, molecule must possess permanent dipole moment, and change in dipole moment upon the absorption of microwave radiations is must. This you have studied till now, and these are the gross rules. Another type of rules, another set of conditions are specific selection rules. They are very specific to the microwave spectrum. And what are these specific selection rules? They say that for a microwave spectrum to take place, delta J, or the change in the rotational level, should always be equal to plus minus 1. Now, from here we come to a very important term which is known as rotational level. So every molecule has certain levels in it, and these levels are termed as rotational levels. The very first level, these levels, they have the certain amount of energies associated with them. The very first, or you can say the 0th level, is the level in which is the ground state of the molecule, and molecule does not rotate in this level. When molecule absorbs radiation in this level, it leaves to first level, then to second, then to third, and then so on, so on. Now we'll see in the next slide that how these energies are reached out. There are the certain formula. With the help of these formula, we'll see that how we can calculate the energy of every rotational level. Okay. So now the selection rule specifics is that whenever the molecule is absorbing the microwave radiation, if the molecule is changing at least by one level, if the molecule is absorbing radiation, and if it is changing from 0th level to first level, this is a possibility, and we'll say that microwave spectrum is formed because delta J is equal to plus 1. What is delta J? Delta J is difference in the rotational level which is caused. That means J is equal to 1 minus J is equal to 0 is equal to delta J plus 1. Delta J 1 to delta J 0 is equal to minus 1. So whenever this rotational level changes by plus 1, this is absorption. Whenever rotational level changes by minus 1, this is emission. That means energy is given out. Okay. So the very important derivation is that you cannot have the change in rotational level by plus 2 or by 1.5 or by 1.75 or by 2.3, 2.4, 2.5. That is not possible. If microwave radiations are falling upon the molecule must change the rotational level by plus 1 at least. एक पूरा rotational level change होना पड़ेगा. It is not possible that molecule changes its rotational level somewhere in between. This is not possible. Or the molecule jumps 2 rotational levels. That is also not possible. So the change in rotational level should always be by plus 1. This is the thumb rule, and this is the specific selection rule as far as the ideal microwave spectroscopy is concerned. If the molecule is not following that rule, that means that is the breakdown of microwave rules or the microwave spectroscopy. So all the transitions with delta J plus 1 are allowed transitions, whereas all the transitions with delta J is equal to plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, and so on are forbidden transitions. Okay. So only allowed transitions will be there. Forbidden transitions are not allowed by the rules of symmetry and by the rules of quantum mechanics. Now, energy of microwave lines. You know that when you want to take a spectra, or if you will be finding out the if you will put the molecule into the microwave spectrometer, something like that, this will appear. Okay, there will be certain lines, certain peaks, which will be very defined. Actually, microwave spectra, if it is the ideal spectra, it is always there in the form of lines. Microwave spectrum does not appear in the form of bands. It is there in the form of lines. So the peaks are very sharp over here. You can just identify, this is one peak, this is another peak, this is another peak, this is another peak. Yes, if there are isotopes that we'll see in some of the slides which are to come, if there are isotopes, we can have two peaks together, one big peak and one small peak, if there are isotopic mixing. But if there are no isotope mixing, if you have only pure molecule, if you have only H2O, or if you have only carbon monoxide, or if you have only HCl with H1H1 and 17Cl35, you will have very sharp peaks. But if you have mixing of 1H117Cl35 and 1H117Cl37, then there will be certain peaks because of Cl37 and there will be certain peaks because of Cl35. But otherwise, this microwave spectrum is a very defined line type of spectrum. And the energy of microwave lines can be calculated from the very simple formula. That means that is Ej is equal to J into J plus 1 into H square upon 8 pi square I. Now, how we have reached to this formula or this calculation is the domain of another lecture. Because अगर हम इसको calculate करेंगे, so it's a big calculation, and it cannot be incorporated in a single class. So I have left that, and I have just taken the last formula. You can just go through the books and you can just see the derivations which are there in Benwell and other books too. Barrow में भी आपको मिल जाएगा. You can consult Benwell, Barrow, Holland, etc. And you can just go for the that how these can be calculated. So this Ej, which is the energy of a rotational line, for this we have a formula J into J plus 1 into H square upon 8 pi square I. You know that here J means the rotational level. If J is 0, that means if rotational level is 0, we have the value of J as 0. So this into H square, you know that H is a Planck's constant, I is moment of inertia fixed for a molecule, 8 is a numeric number, pi is again a constant, pi की constant value होती है. So this is the value of the energy. Now, if you calculate this energy, it comes out to be in as a large quantity. So instead of using this energy, we actually use wave function and we just divide it by hc. अगर आप इस term को hc से divide कर देंगे, denominator में अगर आप hc ले लेंगे, then you will reach into another term which is known as the energy of the line in the form of wave function. So wave function epsilon j can be written as j into j plus 1 into h square upon 8 pi square I था. अगर आप इसके denominator में hc रख देंगे, or if you will multiply it by 1 upon hc, hh will cancel. So you will have epsilon j is equal to j into j plus 1 into h upon 8 pi square ic. Here, this term h upon 8 pi square ic can be taken as constant for a molecule. एक molecule के लिए हम इसे constant मान सकते हैं. For example, if I am calculating something for HCl, so for HCl, moment of inertia will always be same. Moment of inertia तो वही रहेगा HCl molecule के लिए because it is H and Cl, so it will remain same जब तक कि आप isotopic substitution ना ले आए. Another thing is H is Planck's constant, इसमें कोई variation होने वाला नहीं है, it's a constant. C is velocity of light, it is again constant. 8 is a numeric constant, pi is again constant. So this term comes out to be a constant and I can write P for it. Okay. हम क्या करते हैं, इसके लिए हम यहाँ पे B लिख देते हैं, ठीक है. B is a constant now, which is equal to h upon 8 pi square ic. So putting the value here, I have epsilon j is equal to bj into j plus 1. Epsilon j, that means the energy of the line in the form of wave number can be written as epsilon j is equal to bj into j plus 1, where j is 0. If I take j is equal to 0, यहाँ पे ये j is equal to 0 का मतलब क्या हुआ, मैं 0th rotational level की बात कर रही हूँ. So if I am taking j is equal to 0, now you put the value 0 over here, you will have epsilon j is equal to b into 0 plus 1. that means the total epsilon value, epsilon j value comes out to be equal to 0. So what does it mean? It means that when rotational level j is equal to 0, that means that at this time nothing is happening, molecule is not at all rotating. जब जीरोथ लेवल है तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि इस समय मॉलिक्यूल में कोई भी रोटेशन नहीं हो रहा. Conversely, because you had the classes of IR spectroscopy before, if you just revise in your mind about IR spectroscopy, you might have seen that in IR spectroscopy, even in the zeroth vibrational level, we have some zero vibrational energy which is equal to half h nu 0. जब हम zeroth vibrational level में होते हैं उस समय भी मॉलिक्यूल के पास में एक वाइब्रेशनल एनर्जी होती है that is termed as zero point energy, जिसको आप कहते हैं. और इसीलिए ऐसा कहते हैं कि no molecule ceases to vibrate even under 0 डिग्री केल्विन. 0 डिग्री केल्विन के नीचे भी मॉलिक्यूल वाइब्रेट करना बंद नहीं करता. So this is, but in case of rotational spectroscopy, we see that it's a macroscopic spectroscopy. We see that when we are in zeroth level, actually molecule is not at all rotating with energy is equal to 0. If you move on to another condition, second condition में अगर आप देखें, अगर हम j की वैल्यू 1 रख देते हैं अब इस फॉर्मूला में, Ej is equal to Bj into j plus 1, keep j is equal to 1, you have B into 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, so you have value as 2b, hc हमने वहां से लिखा है, तो यहाँ पे आपके पास में ये 2b वैल्यू आ जाएगी. If you keep forget about this hc, you just take 2b. अगर आप यहाँ पे सेकेंड लेवल में चले जाएंगे तो आपके पास में कितना आ जाएगा, Ej is equal to Bj into j plus 1, B into 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1 3, so यहाँ पे वैल्यू कितनी आ जाएगी, 3 to the 6. So epsilon j is equal to 6b and so on and so on. थर्ड लेवल में जाएंगे तो ये epsilon j is equal to b into थर्ड लेवल में जाएंगे b into 3 plus 1, 3 plus 1 मतलब 4, 4 3s are 12, so you have Ej is equal to 12b. If you just find out that, if you just take the difference between all these lines, in case of ideal spectrum, subtract 2b from 6, 0 and 2b. For zeroth level is 0 energy, first level is 2b energy. First minus zeroth will give you value of 2b. Second minus first will give you value of 6b minus 2b is equal to 4b. Then 12b minus 6b is equal to 6b. Ideally speaking, 2 minus 0 2b, 6 minus 2 4b, then 12 minus 6 6b. So every line is 2b distance apart. अगर हम एनर्जी के टर्म्स में बात करें, so that is a very nice derivation that actually all these lines are 2b distance apart. Or I must say that ideally speaking, the difference between line is very uniform and all these lines are spaced at 2b distance from one another. And in case of ideal microwave spectra, we will see that these lines or these peaks are equispaced without any band formation or without any problems. Now, how about the intensity of these spectral lines in microwave spectra? We have seen that microwave lines will be formed with definite energy of which is given by Ej is equal to j into j plus 1 into h square upon 8 pi square I. Or if we are taking in the form of wave number, this is epsilon j is equal to j into j plus 1 into h upon 8 pi square IC. Now we want to see that what will be the intensity of these spectral peaks, or how these spectral peaks will vary in their intensity. Is it there that all the spectral peaks are formed with the same intensity? No. Every peak will not be of the same intensity. We will have certain intense peaks and then we will have certain feeble peaks. And this intensity of the peaks has nothing to do with the energy of the peaks. What is the intensity, or whatever is the energy of the peak is another domain, and the intensity of the peak is another domain. Actually, the intensity of the spectral lines or the peaks, they depend upon certain rules, and there are 3 thumb rules which are guiding the intensity of spectral lines in microwave spectroscopy. They are, the first rule is the amount of spectrum, amount of samples, which is guided by Lambert-Beer's law. You know that Lambert-Beer's law. So this amount of sample or the Lambert-Beer's law, it guides these intensity of spectral lines. Now the second rule is spectroscopic selection rules. That means the allowed and forbidden transitions. Only transitions with delta J value plus minus 1 are allowed. That means if you are having transitions of the level other than delta G plus minus 1, either they will not be allowed, or if in any case any forbidden transition is there, then it will be so feeble that it will not be traced or tracked. So the forbidden transitions can be there with delta J is equal to plus minus 2, plus minus 3 theoretically, but they do not take place. And the most important rule which comes after that is the population of energy states. What does we mean by population of energy states? Actually, there are two factors, factor 1 and factor 2, which are guiding these population of energy states. When we are looking into the microwave spectrum, what we are seeing, हम क्या देख रहे हैं? हम ये देख रहे हैं कि जब microwave radiations को absorb कर रहे हैं molecule, then molecules are shifting then molecules are shifting from one level to another level. For example, molecule अभी यहाँ पे first level में था, अभी molecule ने absorb किया radiation को, ये second level में पहुंच गया. So now there will be many, you can say many instances when molecule will change from first level to second level. But every time when molecule is moving from first level to second level, every time the intensity of spectral line will not be the same. Why? Because when molecule is migrating from this level to this level, there will be different number of molecules which are present in the ground level, in this level from where the migration is taking place, to the level where the migration is taking place. So both the levels are very important. Level from where the migration is taking place and level from where migration is taking place. Okay, to where migration is taking place. यानी माइग्रेशन कहाँ से हो रहा है और माइग्रेशन कहाँ को हो रहा है. Population of both these levels is very important. Okay, the higher population means the more number of molecules migrating from one level to another level. That means intense peaks. If there are more number of molecules which are present in this level, and these microwave radiations are falling upon this level, obviously more number of molecules will absorb the microwave radiations and they will shift to the second level. That means the peak will be intense. But if there are very less number of molecules which are present in this level, microwave radiations are falling, photons are falling, they are absorbing. But because there are a low number of molecules which are present in this level, so the peak intensity will be low. So this is one thing, and this is guided by a very important law that is known as Boltzmann distribution law. You know that NF upon Ni, आपने पहले भी पढ़ा है, NF upon Ni is equal to GF upon GI exponential minus delta E upon KT, which is equal to exponential minus BHC into J plus J1. ये हमने delta E की value यहाँ पे रख दी है upon KT. So NF and Ni यहाँ पे जो होते हैं, they are the population of molecules in energy levels EF and EI with degeneracy. GF and GI, K is Boltzmann constant, and T is the absolute temperature. So this is the guiding formula for factor 1. That means the population of energy state. Now the second factor which is here is the degeneracy of rotational state. Now the degeneracy of rotational state is always equal to 2J plus 1, where J is the rotational level. So that means that if you have zeroth level, for that what will be the degeneracy? 2 into 0 plus 1. 2 into 0 plus 1. So the answer will be 1. Kitna answer aayega? 2 into 0 plus 1, answer will be 1. So that means that according to quantum mechanics, there will be only one energy state when we are talking about zeroth rotational level. So that means zeroth rotational level depicted by J is equal to 0 is a non-degenerate level. It's a non-degenerate level. But if I am having first rotational level, then the degeneracy comes out to be equal to 2 into 1 plus 1. So this is 3. So that means J is equal to 1 is a threefold degenerate level with values is equal to -1, 0, and +1. But if I have J is equal to 2, I have 5-fold degeneracy. That means 2 into 2 plus 1, 2 to the 4 plus 1, 5. So now this is 5-fold degenerate state where I have values of -2, -1, 0, +1, and +2. So these are the two factors which will just guide the intensity of spectral lines in different levels. Now, another very important thing is that that is the isotopic substitution in rotational spectroscopy. If you are having a sample with different types of isotopes mixed up there, then will there be any effect? Because what we know about spectroscopy is that spectroscopy is a physical tool. It does not bring about any change in the chemical structure. If it is so, then this is an appreciable fact that whenever there will be the absorption of microwave radiation, then at that time internuclear distance will not change. If internuclear distance will not change, so how come isotopic substitution is bringing about some change in the spectral lines or the energy of the spectral lines? Kaise difference aayega? But no, isotopic substitutions in rotational spectroscopy are very important. As you can see with this, with the help of this diagram, you can see that we have two types of samples. We have two samples over here. One is HCl35, another is HCl37. So when the sample is a mixed sample, we can just very well see that the whole peak is now differentiated itself into two peaks. One is the sharper one or the bigger peak for HCl35. Another is the small peak with HCl37. Okay, so how come it happens? Now we'll just take the example, or we'll just take the simple formula of which we have seen, energy of rotational line, which is given by Ej is equal to J into J plus 1 into h square upon 8 pi square I. This is the energy. I am not writing in the wave number form. This is just the energy. If you will see from this formula, you can find out that energy is actually inversely proportional to moment of inertia I, and moment of inertia I is given as I is equal to mu r square. What is this mu? Mu is reduced mass. It is given by m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2. So actually, when you are bringing about isotopic substitution, at that time, what is happening? At the time of isotopic substitutions, actually you are bringing about a change in the masses of the atoms. For example, in case of HCl35, if I am taking this 1H1 17Cl35, the example I have taken here is 1H1 17Cl35. Reduced mass mu is equal to m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2. If I just solve this is a simple plus minus. I have 0.97 is the reduced mass of 1H1 17Cl35. Okay, 1 into 35 divided by 1 plus 35. This comes out to be this. If now I have taken the isotope of hydrogen, that is deuterium, so this is 1H2, and I have taken or replaced the 17Cl35 by 17Cl37, the heavier isotope of chlorine. At that time, reduced mass mu is equal to m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2. So this is 2.2 multiplied by 37 divided by 2 plus 37. So it comes out to be equal to 1.8. So now this heavier isotope of HCl, heavier isotope of HCl, in which we have taken hydrogen as 1H2 and chlorine as 17Cl37. This isotope has more reduced mass, or you can say that this is heavier, whereas because this is already, otherwise also it's heavier. But if we take about the reduced mass, it also comes out to be a heavier reduced mass, whereas the lighter mass of lighter isotope of HCl, which is 1H1 17Cl35, this has the reduced mass of 0.97. Very evident from the peaks. So the heavier isotope will show lesser rotation, whereas the lighter isotope will show more rotation. This is very layman's language में भी अगर हम कहें तो आपको पता है कि अगर कोई लाइटर आइसोटोप होता है तो वो ज्यादा आसान है उसको रोटेट करवाना, और अगर हेवियर मॉलिक्यूल है तो उसका रोटेशन कम होता है. So that is evident from this peak. So you can just इस peak से आप देख सकते हैं. So likewise we can say that isotopic substitution has impact on rotational spectroscopy. And whenever we have these isotopic substitutions, we will be having different types of energies, and we will be having different types of excuse me, 1 minute. So that means now what we can say that for heavier and lighter isotopes, we may have different types of peaks for the same sample. Isotopic substitutions has an impact on the rotational spectroscopy. Okay. But now we come to a very important thing. Till now, abhi tak hum jo kuch bhi pad rahe the, that was about ideal molecule. We were saying that molecule is a rigid rotor. Yes, the molecule has a rigid bond, and the molecule rotates around these rigid bonds. But basically, it does not happen. Molecule is always not a rigid rotor. Rather, this molecule, this has for the molecule to be a rigid rotor, this bond length had to remain fixed during the complete rotation of the molecule, but it does not happen. Molecule, whenever molecule is rotating, at the time atoms, they are subjected to centrifugal forces, and these centrifugal forces, they are stretching the bonds, and this basically gives rise to another model, which is non-rigid rotor model. And this non-rigid rotor model basically is you can say is the realistic version of the microwave spectroscopy. Rigid rotor model,
मैं क्लास के बाद सुना दूंगी, मत कर, मेरी क्लास चल रही है.
So this rigid rotor model is the idealized version, whereas the non-rigid rotor, this is the realistic version, where the molecule or whenever the molecule is rotating, then the atoms are facing certain type of centrifugal forces, and these centrifugal forces, which are due to rotations, they are basically because of restoring forces which are applicable upon the molecule. They may be because you are taking the molecule in the gaseous phase, so there may be the frictional forces, there may be the other electrostatic interactions, there may be the weak van der Waals forces. So because of there may be n type of forces. There may be viscosity forces because of viscosity and all that, or the viscous forces. So because of all these n number of forces, we have certain forces which brings in certain centrifugal forces, and because of these centrifugal forces, basically the model is not always the rigid rotor model, and it basically is a non-rigid rotor model. And what is the difference between rigid rotor model and the non-rigid rotor model? Rigid rotor model says that there is always a difference of 2b between the various lines, or between the various levels, or between the various peaks which are observed in the microwave spectroscopy. Whereas the non-rigid rotor model, which is the ideal version, which is the real version of this rigid rotor model, it says that no, it does not happen. Basically, the lines, they have varied distances, and sometimes we say that these distances go on elongating, and sometimes the space increases, and sometimes the molecule also breaks down. So this is the non-rigid rotor model. And basically what happens, rotational spectroscopy, whenever we study rotational spectroscopy, अभी तक हम आपको जो ideal versions बता रहे हैं, उस ideal version में we are taking only one aspect of the spectroscopy, that is rotational spectroscopy. But actually this does not happen. When we are tackling the molecules which are real molecules, like if you take the example of HCl, now HCl molecule basically is a covalent molecule, but this molecule forms the rotational spectroscopy, whereas it is eligible for the formation of vibrational spectroscopy too. And you see that at a junction, rotation, when we are talking about the different energy parameters for the different radiations, we see that these energies of the radiations also overlap. So there is a very bleak difference between the rotational and vibrational spectroscopy. And many times when we are encountering the non-rigid models, or in practical in fact, I can say that in practical behavior, when we are examining a molecule inside a microwave spectrometer, we do see that actually molecule does not comply to the rotational behavior only. Actually, molecule shows certain vibrational behavior also. And at that time, this rotational vibrational spectroscopy becomes very useful to us. And then at that time, basically we have PQ and R branches, which are very helpful. And what are these PQ and R branches? I would just like to mention over here. शायद आपने इंफ्रारेड स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी में या वाइब्रेशनल स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी के दौरान इनको पढ़ा भी हो. So now actually what happens, if we just see the levels, we have vibrational levels in a molecule, and inside these vibrational levels, we have many rotational levels. For example, if V is equal to 0, this is the 0th vibrational level, and this is the first vibrational level in a molecule. Consider HCl. Now this 0th vibrational level may have many rotational levels like J is equal to 0, 1, 2, and 3. And V is equal to 1, that is the first vibrational level. It can also have many rotational levels. J is equal to 0, 1, 2, and 3. So there are the different rotational levels. And within these different rotational levels, we have many vibrational levels. Say the microwave radiations are falling upon this molecule, or say the infrared radiations are also falling upon the molecule. Molecule absorb these radiation, and after the absorbance of these radiations, if the molecule gets shifted from this vibrational level to this vibrational level, from 0th vibrational level to first vibrational level, but in doing so, if the molecule retains the rotational level, for example, molecule was here in V is equal to 0, J is equal to 0. After the absorption of microwave or the infrared radiation, if the molecule gets shifted from V is equal to 0, J is equal to 0 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 0, what level is retained? Rotational level is retained. Or if the molecule gets shifted from V is equal to 0, J is equal to 1 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 1, or from V is equal to 0, J is equal to 2 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 2, or V is equal to 0, J is equal to 3 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 3. Such type of lines which are formed are termed as Q branches. And this type of branches we encounter when we see the when we see a very real spectra of a non-rigid molecule. When we see a non-rigid molecules and we just see the spectra of that molecule, we encounter such type of branches. These are termed as Q branches. On the other hand, if we have a migration where the molecule is shifting from V is equal to 0 to higher vibrational level, but if it is losing on the rotational level, meaning if the molecule is shifting from V is equal to 1, J is equal to 1 to V is equal to 0, J is equal to 1 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 0. That means the decrease in the rotational level is observed here, or the decrease in the rotational energy is involved. However, the increase in the vibrational energy is there. Then this is termed, this type of branches are termed as P branches. V is equal to 0, J is equal to 2 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 1. V is equal to 0, J is equal to 3 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 2. Such type of branches are termed as P branches. On the other hand, if there is the increase in the rotational level across the vibrational levels, that means the molecule is shifting from V is equal to 0, J is equal to 0 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 1. V is equal to 0, J is equal to 1 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 2, or V is equal to 0, J is equal to 2 to V is equal to 1, J is equal to 3. Such type of lines are termed as R branches. Okay. So in this way, in case of non-rigid rotors, in case of molecules in which we are having a spectra in very ideal, in very real conditions, in that we already always have these PQ and R branches, which we encounter in microwave spectroscopy as well as in infrared spectroscopy. Now, what information can we obtain from a rotational spectrum? Very simple information, but very useful information. And these informations are, first, if the molecule is microwave active, it clearly implies that molecule has polarity. आंख बंद करके हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि अगर मॉलिक्यूल माइक्रोवेव एक्टिव है तो इसका मतलब ये मॉलिक्यूल पोलर होगा। अगर इसकी पोलैरिटी में चेंज आ रहा है, मॉलिक्यूल में माइक्रोवेव रेडिएशन की एब्जॉर्प्शन के बाद चेंज आ रहा है, यस द मॉलिक्यूल इज माइक्रोवेव एक्टिव, दैट मींस इट इज ऑब्जर्विंग अ चेंज इन पोलैरिटी एंड यस इट हैज रिजिड बॉन्ड्स। इसमें बॉन्ड्स भी रिजिड होंगे। If somebody asks you about the type of bonds in a molecule which is showing a microwave spectrum, you can clearly tell them that the bond will be a rigid bond, or rigid bond से आप क्या कहेंगे? You can very well infer that either the bond is of electrovalent nature, or if this bond is not of electrovalent nature, and if it is a covalent bond, it must have the ionic character more than excuse me, more than 70 to 80% of ionic character must be there in that bond if this molecule is showing microwave activity. If it is not show, the microwave molecule will not show microwave activity. So this is the information which you can derive if the molecule is microwave active. Now with the help of pure rotational spectrum of molecules, what you can calculate the bond lengths. What is the bond length of the molecule can always be calculated with the help of the rotational spectra of molecule. Just take a molecule, put it in the microwave spectrometer and find out the microwave spectra, and with the help of that microwave spectra you can calculate the bond lengths. Otherwise, you know, if somebody gives you a very unknown molecule and asks you to calculate the bond length, आपने किसी भी molecule का mass spectra निकाला, mass spectra निकालने के बाद now you know that there are these type of atoms are present in the molecule. You have taken IR, you have taken different types of spectra. Now you know many things about the molecules, but how to find out the bond length? That bond length can be found out with the help of rotational spectra, because otherwise the molecule is unknown. You have no other method to find out the bond length of the molecule. So it can be found out with the help of rotational spectra. What are the atomic or isotopic masses that can be found out? What is the isotopic abundance that can be found out? And what is the temperature of the molecule, the time you are taking out the spectra, that can also be found out. The formula which can be used for finding out all these things are very simple formula. The thumb formula is Ej is equal to J into J plus 1 H square upon 8 pi square I, or epsilon J is equal to J into J plus 1 into H upon 8 pi square IC. Only these formula will be used everywhere. सारा कुछ इन्हीं दो फॉर्मूला से निकाला गया है, और एक ये फॉर्मूला है आपका पॉपुलेशन के लिए। ये फॉर्मूला इस्तेमाल करके I is equal to mu r square, where mu is equal to m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2, and B, यहाँ पे जो कांस्टेंट B होता है उसको निकालने के लिए आप जो फॉर्मूला यूज कर सकते हैं, that is h upon 8 pi square IC. With the help of this formula, you can calculate the value of B also, and by finding out these values, putting up these values, you can just find out the things which are given here. This type of simple numericals you encounter into your exams and even in your CSIR net exams. I have seen many questions in this CSIR net examination. There is nothing, ऐसा कुछ बहुत difficult नहीं पूछा जाता है. It all revolves around जो भी कुछ आपके CSIR net में पूछा जाता है या जहाँ भी पूछा जाता है, that always revolves around some of the student has switched on their, please switch off your mics. Okay, thank you very much. So these are the simple formulas with the help of which you can calculate, and these are the simple examples which I have shown you here. With the help of this type of numericals you will encounter, and thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening to this microwave spectroscopy lecture. This was an overview on microwave spectroscopy. However, अगर इनके mathematical formulas हमको drive करना हो या हमको इसका mathematics देखना हो, so that is the domain of another lecture that can be, or you can read it from Benwell and all that. यहाँ मैं आपको ये जरूर बता देना चाहती हूँ कि if you want to calculate anything, or if you want to calculate the energy of this microwave lines, that can be calculated in two ways, either with the help of Newtonian mechanics by applying the Newtonian formula, or it can be done with the help of quantum mechanics by solving the Schrodinger wave equation. So if you are solving the Schrodinger wave equation, the Schrodinger wave equation should be solved for every atom which is there in a molecule. And if the molecule is very complex, definitely the problem of solving the Schrodinger wave equation becomes difficult. So for that, you already know that spectroscopy there is a approximation on which we believe, and that approximation is Born-Oppenheimer approximation, which is applied to microwave spectroscopy also, where we believe that the nucleus is not rotating. Basically, whatever is happening to the electrons. So just making nucleus still, we can calculate, or we can solve the Schrodinger wave equations for all the electrons. You just can imagine that solving a Schrodinger wave, even if you want to calculate the energy of HCl molecule, you have to solve, even if we are taking 1H1, 17Cl35. So we have to, if we are taking only electrons, we have to solve 18 Schrodinger wave equation, 1 for hydrogen and 17 for chlorine. And with the help of these, and that I am talking about, there are two types of Schrodinger wave equation. One is time independent, another is time dependent. So even if you are solving the time independent wave equation, you have to solve 18 equations for hydrogen chloride. So it is a bit cumbersome job to solve, to reach up to these mathematical explanations. That is why I have used this. And now, if you want to ask any question, I am open to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for making our concepts and by explaining even the minute topics. Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, am I audible?
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, you have explained the every minute detail of the topic, and I think this will be very helpful in our future. And I want to give a special thanks to our HOD, Dr. Anamika Jain ma'am and Aparna Gandhe ma'am for your support and guidance. Thank you, M.K. Dwivedi sir, for the coordination and the smooth conduction of the program. Thank you, our teachers and students, for joining us today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
पहले बच्चों से पूछ लो, किसी की कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो आपने उनको मौका ही नहीं दिया सोचने का. Akshita?
Yes, ma'am.
If any student have any query or question, they can ask. मैम से पूछ सकते हैं.
Yes, ma'am. Any students who have any doubts, please ask.
Actually,
Good morning, ma'am.
Actually, yeah, go on.
मैम एक्चुअली माय डाउट वाज इन कि अपन सिर्फ ये माइक्रोवेव स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी में सिर्फ गैसियस स्टेट में ही एनालिसिस क्यों करते हैं, वेयर एज आईआर में तो हम सॉलिड भी ले सकते हैं और लिक्विड भी ले सकते हैं. तो इसमें इतना स्पेसिफिक मतलब सिर्फ गैसियस स्टेट ही क्यों लेके चलते हैं अपन?
ओके, थैंक यू फॉर आस्किंग. एक्चुअली इट्स अ गुड क्वेश्चन. क्यों ये मैंने जब स्टार्ट किया था तो मैंने ये कहा भी था. एक्चुअली व्हाई वी टेक गैसियस स्टेट, दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. जैसा आपने बोला, आईआर में वी कैन टेक सॉलिड एंड लिक्विड, लेकिन इंफ्रारेड स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी में अगर आप देखते हैं तो इंफ्रारेड स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी में केवल जो आपका फंक्शनल ग्रुप होता है उसमें वाइब्रेशंस कॉज होती हैं. ओके, सो इन केस ऑफ रोटेशनल स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी और माइक्रोवेव स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी, मॉलिक्यूल हैज एज अ होल हैज टू मूव. पूरे के पूरे मॉलिक्यूल को या तो एक्सिस के चारों
Voice is not audible.
Voice is not audible. Okay, but I have not kept myself mute.
Madam, audible, madam.
Audible है ना?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because I have not kept, I have not kept myself on mute mode. So actually what happens, say you just see here, actually what is happening in case of rotational spectroscopy, this whole molecule has to rotate. It does not have to vibrate, it has to rotate. The type of motion which is under consideration is that this molecule has to rotate, and that along the Cartesian coordinate axis. ये जो ऑर्थोगोनल एक्सिस ऑफ रोटेशन होती है, इस पे इसको पूरा का पूरा घूमना है, वाइब्रेट नहीं करना. So it requires a large space. If we take solid or liquid sample, what will happen? ये जो साइड के forces हैं, which will be, अगर इसके साइड में कोई और molecule है, if it is a solid or if it is a liquid sample, in that case what will happen? Internuclear distances will decrease. जो internuclear distances होंगे वो बहुत कम होंगे. Internuclear distances कम होने का मतलब क्या हो जाएगा कि इस molecule के close vicinity में कोई दूसरा molecule होगा. So what will happen? इसका रोटेशन हिंडर हो जाएगा, पूरा का पूरा रोटेशन नहीं हो पाएगा मॉलिक्यूल का लॉन्ग एक्स वाई एंड जेड एक्सिस. डिग्रीज ऑफ फ्रीडम इसकी जो है वो फ्रेंचाइज नहीं हो पाएंगी. Whereas अगर वाइब्रेशन होना होता तो बहुत थोड़ा सा स्पेस चाहिए होता और वाइब्रेशन हो जाता. Okay, so that is why microwave spectroscopy can never be taken out in solid and liquid samples because molecule needs space to move on. Molecule को घूमने के लिए जगह चाहिए. It does not need any type of dampening forces. Okay, I hope I'm clear.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Thank you.
Akshita, you can continue.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who want to ask a question? Okay, that was a thank because ma'am has completed the lecture very useful. I just want to conclude that कि thank you HOD ma'am, आपने हमको ये मौका दिया कि हम इतना अच्छा प्रोग्राम कर पाए और आपने मैम को भी इनवाइट किया. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू कोऑर्डिनेटर सर MK द्विवेदी सर, आपने हमारा इतना साथ दिया और मैम को आप लेकर आए. थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन.
Okay, I have put up my email over here. If any of students or if any of you have any doubt or any problem, so please mail me at this address and I will be more than happy to reply. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
madam.
madam. Thank you, Kalpana, madam.
Okay, thank you. ma'am.
It was a wonderful lecture.
Ma'am, it was really wonderful lecture.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, can I leave, ma'am?
Yeah, sure, madam.
Thank you, Kalpana madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Very
Thank you.
nice lecture.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining with us and sparing your valuable time.
Thank you, sir. Okay,
Anushka,
thank you. So thank you for having me here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Anushka,
जी सर, आप कुछ कह रहे हैं?
वो थैंक्स के लिए बोला था उसने प्रेसिडेंट.
यस सर. सर वो थोड़ी गड़बड़ हो गई थी मुझसे.
क्या हो गया अक्षिता?
मैम वो थोड़ी सी गड़बड़ हो गई थी मुझसे.
क्या हो गया?
मैम
सर को बोलना था ना आपको?
यस मैम, दैट वाज
फिर कैसे गड़बड़ हुई?
मैम वो थोड़ी जल्दीबाजी हो गई थी.
नहीं तो यहाँ कोई जल्दी का आज तो टाइम का कुछ था ही नहीं, आराम से आपको. एनीवेज चलो, वही मुझे भी लगा कि मतलब आप कैसे इसको कर रहे हो.
यस मैम, सॉरी मैम.